Hi guys, it's Emily, and today I'm here to bring you another recent reads video. I got 3 books to talk about, so let's just get right into it. The last book that I finished in November was Calling Me Home by KIbler. This is a dual timeline story. We are following 2 different women, Dory, who is black, and Isabel, who is white. And Dory and Isabel are friends, and Dory is also Isabel's hairdresser. And they've developed a relationship over the course of many years of Dory doing Isabel's hair. And so one day Isabel comes to Dory and asks her to drive her to Cincinnati for a funeral. And Dory is going through some hard stuff in her life. Her teenage son has been having some issues, and they've been having some fights and things like that. And then she has just started a relationship with a man named Teague, but Dory has had some heartbreak in her life, and so she's having some trust issues, and she's sort of trying to decide whether it's worth continuing with Teague. And so she decides this trip is a good distraction, and she agrees to take Isabel. And so once they're on their way, they live in Arlington, Texas, and so they're driving up all the way up to Cincinnati. And once they're on their way, Isabel begins telling Dory her life story, and most notably about a relationship that she had with a black man named Robert, who was the son of her family's housekeeper. And this is the second timeline, and so the alternating chapters are the story of Isabel's life in 1939 in Covington, actually it's a suburb of Covington, Kentucky, a little small town where black people are not allowed to be there at night. It's a sundown town, and so she develops this relationship with Robert, and they eventually fall in love, and we get to see their love story play out. And as you might guess, it's not very happy because of the time that this book is set. So we see how they decide to deal with their relationship. They eventually just want to run away to Cincinnati because in Cincinnati interracial marriage is legal, and so we see how that plays out. We see how Isabel's family deals with everything, and then eventually we see how Isabel and Robert's relationship plays out to the present day, basically. So we get to see these 2 different storylines, the present day storyline and then the 1939 storyline. I really enjoyed this book. I listened to it on audio, and the audio book has 2 narrators, one for Dory and one for Isabel, which made the story very easy to get into, and you felt very strongly about both the characters. I will say that Isabel in the 1939 sections is very naive. I mean, she's a wealthy white girl, so obviously, racism doesn't touch her life that much until she gets involved with Robert, and she starts to see how unfair things are. Particularly, she becomes concerned about the fact that her town, Shalerville, is a sundown town, and she also starts to see that her parents, whom she previously idolized, are actually they're very constrained in their feelings and beliefs and all that kind of stuff. So yes, I really enjoyed this. I would definitely recommend it on audio. It was very interesting. It's very sad, but also it's very sweet because of the relationship between Dory and Isabel. Really good book. Then, on the first day of December, I finished Mrs. Adams in Winter, A Journey in the Last Days of Napoleon by Michael O'Brien, and this was for Nonfiction November for the Movement Prompt. This is following Louisa Adams, who is the wife of John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States. She and John Quincy were living in Russia for several years, and then John Quincy was called to Paris to negotiate a treaty, and then it ended up that he was going to stay in Paris for the foreseeable future. So Louisa decides to go join him, and she leaves Russia in the winter of 1815, and we see how she travels through Russia, present-day Estonia, present-day Germany, and present-day France to get to Paris. And of course, as the subtitle says, Napoleon is coming back from Elba, and so the political landscape is very fraught right now in this time, and so she's dealing with the traditional hardships of traveling while being a woman during this time, which are then amplified by all this political unrest. So the book does start with telling us about John Quincy and Louisa's life in Russia, and then turns into a sort of travelogue telling us about the different towns she passes through and her movements through the 45 days it takes her to travel from St. Petersburg to Paris. We also learn more about the political aspects. We learn about Napoleon and his rise and fall, and then second rise. We learn about Louisa's background and her marriage to John Quincy. We learn a lot of stuff that happened in their lives. It's kind of a biography, and then we also learn things about Germany, the Holy Roman Empire, and then eventually we learn about French history as well. And this is literally a history of her journey, because it starts when she leaves Russia, and then it ends literally when she shows up at John Quincy's residence in Paris, and there's nothing about her life after that point. So yeah, this was a really interesting book. I will say it was kind of slow going. I had intended to finish this in November, and it was just so slow that I didn't get to finish until December 1st, but it was good. But yeah, I'm glad I got it read, because it had been on my TBR since 2016, and now I'm gonna pass it on to my mom. This morning I finished Finding Nouf by Zoe Ferraris. This is a mystery novel set in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and we are following a desert guide named Nayir, who is actually a Palestinian immigrant to Saudi Arabia, and he leads tours in the desert for tourists and then also wealthy Jeddah families, and one of these families asked him to search for their daughter, Nouf, in the desert, because they believe that Nouf has run away because she is 16 years old and she's getting ready to marry, and so they think she might have been nervous about the wedding. So he goes into the desert, but once he gets into the desert, Nouf is actually found by another group that is looking for her, and so the family is worried about a scandal because they find out during the autopsy that she is pregnant, which of course in Saudi Arabia is a big taboo. So they pay off the police to cover up, the pregnancy and the nefarious, what they think is nefarious dealings with her death, and they ask Nayir to investigate. And so in the course of this investigation, he begins to start to get to know a woman that works at the coroner's office, Katya, and Katya is also engaged to one of Nouf's brothers, Othman. And so the mystery is also showing the development of Nayir and Katya's friendship. At the beginning of the book, Nayir is a very conservative, man, and he disapproves of Katya because in Saudi Arabian culture, at least at this time, this book was published in 2008, women are not really supposed to have jobs, and they aren't allowed to drive, so Katya has a driver and takes her to work, and so there's sort of this disapproval, but then over the course of the investigation the two become friends. And so we see how this investigation uncovers secrets in Nouf's family, the Sawi family, and it's just a very fascinating book. The mystery itself was just fair. I felt like it was kind of convoluted, but the actual learning about Saudi Arabian culture and relationships and how women have to deal with all the oppressions of their lives, was really, really interesting, and I would definitely pick up the other two books in this trilogy. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I definitely recommend it. I totally forgot to mention this, but I read this for Cloak and Dagger Christmas. I read it for the conservatory prompt because it's set in a warm climate, and I also read it for the hall prompt because it's a new to me series and a new to me author. So yeah, I'm only planning to read 2 mysteries this month, but I wanted to make sure I at least participated a little bit in Cloak and Dagger Christmas. So that's all I've been reading lately. Currently, I just finished Finding Nouf this morning, so currently I'm only reading my Christmas collection for the year. It is a Christmas Treasury of Yuletide stories and poems, edited by Charlton and Barbara Gilson, and it's got a whole host of famous people in here, and it's just what it says on the tin, a collection of Christmas stories and poems. I'm reading 2 a day, and I just to finish it on Christmas Eve. So yeah, I always really enjoy reading a Christmas collection every year. So that's all I've been reading lately. I hope everybody else has been reading some great books lately, and you're enjoying the Christmas season or Hanukkah season or Kwanzaa season or whatever else you celebrate during this winter season. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!